Percy's passengers. Percy was talking to James at the shed at the big station. My guard was telling me how lonely he gets in his van, he was saying. I think he ought to take some passengers sometimes. It might cheer him up. He's not allowed to do that, said James virtuously. It's against regulations. Guards are important and passengers might distract them so that they couldn't look after the train properly. Oh dear, said Percy. Yes, I suppose they might.
They can do it on the mainland, put in Gordon. Someone told me about it when I went to Carlisle with that special, but they don't do it on the other railway. It's on some preserved lines, but they haven't got any coaches.
You see, James, said Percy triumphantly. Oh, well, if they haven't got any coaches, that's different, James huffed. I'm sure the Fat Controller wouldn't approve. Pooh, replied Percy cheekily. Little you know. He puffed away to collect some trucks from the harbour. Meanwhile, on the branch line, some passengers got out of Henrietta at a small village station. They all went through the ticket barrier, except for two, a man and a woman. Ah, said the ticket inspector when he looked at their tickets. You've come too far, I'm afraid, sir. You should have got out at the last station. The two people looked at him. Then they looked at each other and shook their heads. The last station, repeated the ticket inspector slowly. You must go back. There was a pause. Then the man said something to his wife in a language the ticket inspector didn't understand. He asked the porter to bring the station master. A short time later, Percy came chuntering happily along the branch line with his trucks from the harbour. He saw the signal at the station to be set at danger, and the station master was waiting for him on the platform. Oh dear, there must have been an accident, he thought as he stopped. I hope nobody's hurt. The station master came over with the two passengers. I'm giving the guard these two passengers to travel in his van, he told Percy. They're foreigners who came too far on Toby's train by mistake. Will you stop at the station by the river to let them off, please? Percy was puzzled. Passengers? He asked, when the guard had taken them away. But this is a goods train. That's right, Percy, said the station master. They're going to travel with the guard in his van. But James says it's against it's not allowed, sir. The station master laughed. James is right, Percy, but I don't think James or the Fat Controller would mind us helping two foreign visitors on our island who can't understand our language. Do you? That made it all right, of course. The guard saw that his visitors were as comfortable as he could make them in his van, and as soon as he blew the whistle, Percy set off. A few minutes later, when they reached the station they wanted, the passengers came to the front of the train to see Percy. They nodded and smiled and shook hands with the driver and fireman. Then the guard showed them to a taxi that was waiting to take them to the rest of their journey. Then the guard showed them to a taxi that was waiting to take them on the rest of their journey. A few weeks later, a parcel arrived with brightly coloured foreign stamps on the wrapping. Inside were warm new scarves and gloves for Percy's driver, fireman and guard, and a letter addressed to the Fat Controller saying how splendid his railway was. Percy was proud, but he didn't tell James. It might make him jealous, he said to himself, and that would never do.